I returned to the Potteries in 1897, and again in December 1903, both times for family reasons. In '03, I spent an evening at the Grand Theatre, Hanley, which hadn't been built when I lived here. I could only remember sing-songs conducted by convivial chairmen with rapping hammers in public houses, whose blinds were drawn and whose posters were handwritten. Now I saw an immense carved and gilded interior, like a smaller version of the Paris Opera. My first thought was, why, it's just like a real music hall. I only thought of Hanley as a place where people went to work at 7 in the morning and emerged from public houses at 11 at night, or mournful in packed tramcars, or bitterly partisan on chilly football grounds. I could scarcely credit their appearance here, lolling on velvet amid Cupids and Hercules, and smoking at ease, reclining aristocratically in the grand circle for a bob, and offered chocolates by boys dressed as if to go to Eton. And there was a vast gallery stuffed with human tuppences. Even the newspaper lad and match girl might go to the Hanley Grand, and, sitting together, drink the milk of paradise. Wonderful discoveries, these new music hall directors. They have discovered the folk. The performance was timed as carefully as a prize fight. Ting, and the curtain went unfailingly up. Ting, and it came unfailingly down. Ting, and something started. Ting, and it stopped. Everybody concerned with the show knew what he and everybody else had to do. The illuminated number signs on either side of the proscenium changed themselves with the implacable accuracy of astronomical phenomena. It was just as if some deity of 10,000 syndicated halls was controlling the show from some throne studded with electric switches in Shaftesbury Avenue. Only the uniformed shepherd of the tuppences in the gallery seemed free to use his own discretion. His intimidating, "Now then, order, please," was the sole feature of the entertainment, not regulated to the 1/5 of a second by that recurrent ting. And the entertainment. A young woman in a short skirt chanted of being clasped in his arms again. A couple of acrobatic mulatto women throbbed with bodily fever. Male acrobats gave a continual creation of sheer animal beauty. But I was waiting for the Yorkshire songsters, second item in the second half. There were 20 of them standing in a sort of flattened semicircle, the women in white and the men in scarlet hunting coats, with the conductor in knee breeches and silk stockings. Ordinary northern men and women, you could tell that, but they had class. They could really sing. They really had voices. They brought the house down every time. It was the folk themselves giving something back to the folk in artistic form. But the most touching item for me was a lady clog dancer. Hanley was the centre of a land of clogs. I've wakened in winter darkness to the sound of clogs on slushy pavements. And when I think of clogs, I think of the knocker-up, and hurried fire-lighting, and tea and thick bread, and the factory gates, and the terrible timekeeper standing there with his clock. Now clogs have nearly gone out of the working life, but here they reappear in clog dancing, once done in public houses by people who next morning would clatter to work in clogs. As I lumbered home in the electric tramcar, besieged by printed requests from the tramway company not on any account to spit, I could not help thinking and thinking in a very trite way that art is a wonderful thing.
Don't put your daughter on the stage, Mrs. Wellington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. Though they said at the School of Acting she was lovely as Peer Gynt, I'm afraid on the whole in an ingenue role would emphasise her squint. She's a big girl, and though her teeth are fairly good, she's not the type I ever would be eager to engage. No more buts, Mrs. Worthington. Nuts, Mrs. Worthington. Don't put your daughter on the stage. I think that, unlike a novel, a play gains a life of its own once the author has surrendered it for production. The whole enterprise is immense, immersive, and magnificent. Most importantly, success or failure are so terribly public, and dramatic critics hold the writer's happiness in their hands.
Well, before World War I, Bennett was the very model of a prolific and successful playwright, such that happiness abounded in all places and on all sides. Indeed, from 1908 to 1913, he had no less than 5 plays running on the London stage. It's with the first of these, his first great commercial and artistic success, Cupid and Common Sense, that we begin. This is dramatised from Anna of the Five Towns, and it was seen at the Shaftesbury Theatre in 1908, with subsequent touring productions in Glasgow, Manchester, and Stoke-on-Trent, City of Culture. Most recently, Deborah McAndrew's faithful adaptation of the novel has been seen by many of us at the New Vic, and I have to say that that production is really a far more faithful representation of the novel than Cupid and Common Sense is. But nevertheless, our excerpt is a very well-known scene where Anna's father, Ephraim, on her 25th birthday, is talking to her about the economic facts of life. And in this scene, the supremacy of common sense is apparent over any nonsense from Cupid.
So I was taking to giving you flowers.
It's my birthday, and she wanted to give me something.
And why are you wearing it tonight?
She just put it in my dress.
Here,
Yes, Father.
I want you. Bring that chair, sit down here. So, it's your birthday. Thought you remind me of it, eh? I don't want no reminding. How old are you?
25.
Aye, you're 25. Well, lass, I've gotten something for you.
For me, Father?
Your mother had a fortune of her own. None of your grandfather's work comes to you when you're 25. I'm the trustee. Your mother had £18,000 in government stock. Your grandfather had a fancy for government stock. That was about 25 years ago. I've nigh on trebled it for you. What with good investment and interest accumulating. Your birth this day is near 50,000 as makes no matter, lass. And that's a tidy bit.
£50,000?
Aye.
Do you mean it's mine, Father?
It's yours and your grandfather's will, haven't I told you? I'm bound by law forgive it to you this day, and you must sign me a receipt in due form for the securities. Well, here they are. You must sign the transfers as well. I'll put your name in pencil, see? Here's the list. Read it and I'll check it off.
1969, I did my first adaptation of one of the Bennett novels. I was able to adapt and stage Anna of the Five Towns at the Victoria Theatre in Stoke. And I think I was able to get more of Bennett's actual novel and his own intentions in the novel onto the stage. Arnold Bennett's own adaptation was written very much for the theatre of the day. He had to squash it onto a proscenium arch stage. He had to have 2 intervals and 2 sets only. There was only room for 1 change of set. So he had to squash all the events of the play and put them into these 2 interior sets. So he lost an awful lot of the wonderful outside scenes, like the walk up to the park, Burslem Park, and all the wonderful scenes at the seaside in the Isle of Man. And I think, to me, it was not a satisfactory rendition of the novel. You know, he did it himself, so one can't complain too much. But 2 years later, I was able to put something on stage which I thought was more faithful to the actual novel that he wrote when I did my own adaptation of Anna of the Five Towns. And that was the first of many. I've done now altogether 9 adaptations of Bennett novels, all performed at the Victoria Theatre, and all more or less very successful. So people in the Potteries, in spite of what other people might tell you, do enjoy Arnold Bennett still.
The first screen adaptations of Arnold Bennett works date from the period after the Cinemas Act of 1909 made it compulsory to screen films in purpose-built cinemas, with separate projection rooms, safety exits and so on. And the new trend for feature-length films, coming in from about 1912, with an average running time of about an hour, rather than film shows comprising a rolling programme of short films, 15 minutes maximum. 1,000 feet manufactured reel of film ran for 15 minutes at the old projection speed, so a 15-minute film was a one-reeler. The new running time of about an hour was a four-reeler. Production companies were looking for suitable screenplays, and adapting a stage play was the common option. Not all features ran for a full hour. The first record of an Arnold Bennett work adapted for the cinema is The Grand Babylon Hotel of 1914, made by the Eclipse Film Company. No copy exists. Bennett's play, The Great Adventure of 1913, is a version of Buried Alive. It had 673 West End performances from 1913 to 1914, and it's still in the top 70 longest runs of all time for a West End play. There was a film version in 1916 made by Turner Films and starred Henry Ainsley, the West End lead, and Esme Hubbard, with Arthur Collin, Rutland Barrington, Amy Lorraine and Hubert Harden. The Grand Babylon Hotel was made as a film again in 1916 by Hepworth Films, directed by Frank Wilson and starring Fred Wright, Marguerite Blanche and Gerald Lawrence. Septimus Bennett, Arnold's brother, went to see it. The picture was splendid and well worth sitting through all the others. As in the book, the beginning gave me the impression of something higher class to follow. Still, as melodrama, it was lovely. The buying of the entire hotel in order to obtain a bottle of Bass to dinner, just to please a whim of Theodore's daughter, was exceedingly well done. Milestones of 1912, a play which Bennett wrote with Edward Knobloch, is the saga of an upper-class English family starting in the 1860s and ending in 1912, demonstrating the industrial and social changes in English society. Milestones was filmed in 1917 by Samuelson Films, directed by Thomas Bentley, and starring Campbell Gullen, Isabel Elson, Esme Hubbard, Owen Nares, Hubert Harden. These last three were in the original stage version. Bennett said of the film, "Though it was tremendously vulgarized, it was not as bad as I expected. It contained some ideas which would have been in the play if I'd thought of them, only I didn't." The film is missing from the British Film Institute National Archive and is listed as one of the British Film Institute's 75 most wanted lost films. Milestones was filmed again in 1920 by Goldwyn Pictures, with Lewis Stone, Alice Hollister, Mary Alden. 1920 saw the expansion of the larger studios. Hollywood would have 20 by the end of the decade, and this film seems to have had higher production values. A copy or copies do exist, but attempts to put it and some of the other Bennett adaptations onto social media have been curtailed. Das Grand Hotel Babylon was a 1920 German production by Stern Film, directed by E. A. Dupont, who would go on to direct Piccadilly in 1929, and starred Hans Albers, Max Lander and Karl Falkenberg. The Wedding Dress in 1920. Bennett signed with famous Players Lasky to write an original script which was completed in December 1920. His first screenplay, and 27,400 words long. Total disagreement between Bennett and Hugh Ford, famous Players editor, led to the project being abandoned. He was paid $5,000, but lost 3 months of his time. "You can tell Mr. Lasky how much 3 months of my time is worth," was his parting shot. The manuscript of The Wedding Dress disappeared and was found in 1984 by Bennett's daughter Virginia Eldin in her Paris home. She donated it to the Victoria Theatre to auction off as part of the fundraising campaign for the new Vic, which opened in 1986. And here she is handing it over to Peter Cheeseman.
I had the manuscript with me for perhaps 10 years without knowing it. Well, first of all, I was flabbergasted. And then I thought almost immediately that I should give my problem to Peter, and that perhaps it could be used for your theatre. May I give this manuscript to you for the use of the appeal for the new theatre? And I hope it raises the maximum amount of money.
Thank you very much, Virginia. Thank you. We're willing to sell it to the highest bidder, are we, Virginia?
Yes, absolutely.
You would approve,
yes, I would approve
of that. So
yes.
if anybody with $1 million wants to buy a double scenario of The Wedding Dress by Arnold Bennett in his own extraordinary handwriting,
Yes.
Virginia, say a word about the handwriting. Here it is.
Well, there's a certain amount of crossing out, which shows which it probably was a first draft, because I believe in his former manuscripts were very few mistakes made or crossings out. So he was thinking while he was writing it. It's written very swift handwriting.
And it is about 100 pages written with a fountain pen, written in ink, in that very tiny, but very characteristic handwriting, isn't it? Or very small handwriting. Here we are. And a lot of crossings out.
A lot of crossings out.
Yes. And it is in fact two scenarios.
Perhaps it is two scenarios. It's possible that as he was writing it, he had discussions with the person for whom he was writing it, and it changed it accordingly.
And the film, which it was intended for, Virginia, never came off, did it?
No, I don't.
There is a letter in which he tells his agent that the film people wanted alterations which he wasn't prepared to accept, and he said they knew what the public wanted, and he said nobody knows what the public will like. They know what the public has liked. And I reckon Arnold Bennett was an authority in that he wrote this letter in his yacht moored off Cannes, a yacht which he had purchased with the proceeds of his writing.
Well, then it was before
I think he knew what he was talking about.
It was before I was born then.
I think he was a man who knew about that sort of thing.
Now there's a published version of The Wedding Dress, edited by John Shapcott. Sacred and Profane Love, the Book of Carlotta, was made into a 1920 Broadway play by Julia Crawford Ivers, then into a film in 1921 by famous Players Lasky, directed by William Desmond Taylor, and with Conrad Nagel and Elsie Ferguson. Bennett sold the stage and screen rights to the book. The stage version was used to promote the film in the USA, and Bennett received £500 a week royalties from the play. This 1921 poster of William Desmond Taylor shows the film prominently listed. All known copies of this film are lost, and famously, William Desmond Taylor was murdered in 1922, and it's the great unsolved Hollywood murder mystery. The Old Wives' Tale was filmed in 1921 by Ideal Films, with Fay Compton as Sophia, Florence Turner as Constance, and Henry Victor. Fay Compton went on to a long career in British films. She's seen here in a charity promotional film with other British performers. Florence Turner, Constance, was more of a character and comedy actress, and this amusing short film from 5 years earlier, Daisy Doodad's Dial, features her as a girl who wins a face-pulling competition and then is haunted by her own bizarre expressions and just can't stop pulling faces. The Card was filmed in 1922 by Ideal Films, with Laddie Cliff as Denry, Dora Gregory, Joan Barry and Mary Dibley. Laddie Cliff was born in 1891 and had been a child star before going to America to tour in vaudeville from 1907 to 1916. He joined the army from 16 to 19, then went back on the stage and was one of the original co-optimists. The Card was his first film, and he went on to make several more. Faust. In 1926, Bennett wrote the intertitles for a German silent film version of Goethe's book, produced by the great director F.W. Murnau. These still exist, but the YouTube version of the complete film you can see online has the intertitles newly translated, and the Blu-ray version is high quality, but with the original German titling. Ricim and Steps was proposed as a film in 1927. Michael Morton, who'd adapted it for the stage, failed to sell it to Gainsborough Pictures, and the film was never produced. The City of Pleasure became a German film in 1928, a story of mystery, romance, humour and crime. Bennett wrote on the 29th of January 1929, "I saw this film last night. It begins very well, with the funfair scenes and so on, but the actual story, as screened, has absolutely no connection with The City of Pleasure. Also, every shred of comedy has been carefully removed from the film. Why, I cannot imagine, unless the director failed to see any comedy in the book. To witness this film made me very gloomy." Piccadilly, in 1929, can be seen as Bennett's greatest achievement in the medium of film. An original screenplay, beautifully directed by E.A. Dupont, who had directed the German version of the Grand Babylon Hotel in 1920, It stars American actress and dancer Gilda Gray, famous for inventing the 20s dance called the shimmy, and one of the only actresses mentioned in The Great Gatsby. It includes the first screen appearance of the great Charles Laughton as a disgruntled diner at Valentine Wilmot's nightclub and restaurant. It launched the career of the mesmerizing Anna May Wong, who uses her wiles with the manager to advance from kitchen dishwasher to star exotic dancer, but disaster awaits. Finally, there was the project Punch and Judy of 1928 to 29 for British National Films. Bennett was paid an advance of £1,000 for 3 months' work on the screenplay for this silent film to be directed by Alfred Hitchcock. When it was decided to turn the film into a talkie, he was not told. Bennett hated talkies and thought the voices intrusive, and he didn't like Hitchcock, who wanted the talkie. Negotiations broke down and the project was abandoned. Now John Chapcott has published the film's original scenario and the novel of the film, with extensive supporting research and notes, giving a great insight into Bennett's final involvement in the film business. Is this Priam Farrell an Englishman?
Yes, but they say he never comes here. No one ever sees him.
They say he's shy, always at hiding.
We're returning to America, Mr. Whip, tomorrow. Wish there was some way I could meet Farrell.
There isn't. I've been his agent for 15 years, and I've never met him.
This is his most famous painting. The policeman.
Nice, isn't it?
Nice. Why, it's worth thousands.
Dear, dear. Fancy a policeman being worth all that. I suppose you know Mr. Farrell well.
Me? I have never even seen him. No one has.
I know his secretary, Mr. Lee.
You?
Well, that is, I don't exactly know him. I correspond with him. He writes nice letters.
That's the way I got married.
I beg your pardon?
The Matrimonial Times. Is that the paper you use?
Really, my dear man,
There's no need to get touchy. It's as good a way as any.
Did yours turn out well?
Well, she has a bit of a limp, but she's jolly.
Where was he when you last heard?
His last picture came from Spain.
You can't dream what these few weeks have meant to me. I've wanted for years to know you.
Oh, really, Lady Helen?
You don't know how great you are. How simple.
Simple?
Unpretentious, unaffected, like a child. If only we could be together always.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Really? Do you mean that?
Oh, why, I mean...
Glorious. I'll take you out of your shell. I'll take you out into the world where you belong.
No, I'm afraid of the world.
Oh, not my world. You love my world.
No, I won't. See, I can't bear being noticed. People terrify me.
Dear Mrs. Hunter, your photograph is beautiful. Will I ever see the original? Not unless I find a new master. Am enclosing a snapshot of Mr. Farrell and me. The one on the right is me.
Leek, pack up. We've got to get away from here at once.
What's happened, sir?
It's not going to happen, Leek. Now pack up and don't ask any questions.
Oh, where are we going, sir?
Oh, I don't know. Anywhere away from here. Some place where they can't find me.
Nobody knows you in London, sir.
Huh? Perhaps you're right, Leek.
We could open up the old house.
For all these years?
Yes, no one would know you there, sir.
Found the doctor 3 doors off. He'll be here in a minute.
You ought not to have gone out without your coat, sir. We don't want you to catch cold, too.
Oh. Here.
Your dressing gown, sir?
No. We must get you to bed at once. You think you can make it up one flight to my room?
Me?
Yeah.
In your bed, sir?
Oh, don't be silly. Come on, I'll help you.
How long has Mr. Farrell been ill? I asked you, how long has your master been ill?
Oh, yes, well, he began to complain when we got off the boat this morning. What's wrong, do you think, Doctor?
I don't know yet. Might be anything. Bring me some boiling water at once.
There isn't any.
You have water, haven't you?
Yes, but not boiling.
Well, never mind. I'll get a plaster. I'll bring my assistant.
Thank you.
Get his clothes off. Have you brandy?
Yes.
Well, get it. Be of some use here. This is serious.
My poor Leek, he takes you for me.
We ought to tell him.
Not at all. It'll save me a lot of that infernal curiosity. Now, come on. Let's get some of these clothes off, huh?
What is it, Doctor? It's all over, my man.
Oh, but it can't be. He was a perfectly strong, healthy man.
Precisely. It's not unusual for strong, healthy men to go off suddenly from acute double pneumonia.
But it's impossible. I don't know what I'll do without that man.
Look here, you don't seem to be much use here. I'll notify the registrar.
Register?
We have to report Mr. Farrell's death, you know.
Okay, Doctor, I'm afraid there's been some mistake.
What?
You see,
Now listen to me, my man. There's been no sort of mistake. Everything's been done that could be done.
But
you're all done up. You need some rest. I'll be back in the morning.
But doctor.
Pneumonia? Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you. Prime Farrell's there.
Prime Farrell's there.
Prime Farrell's there. Right away. Vincent, get taken. All the leading patient.
Yes, bring me the Farrell folder. Yes. Prime Farrell is there. Prime Farrell's there. Prime Farrell's there. Prime Farrell's there. Prime Farrell is dead. Prime Farrell is dead. Prime Farrell.
Don't you think it's time to shut the windows and come to bed?
But about this payment,
Yeah.
if we can't meet it, does it mean that we'll have to get out of this house?
There are other houses, Henry.
Not for me. This is the house I like. This is the house I'm happy in. I don't want to change.
Well, it's a month yet. Perhaps something will happen. It usually does.
There's a way, you know, that I could earn some money.
If you think I'll consider your taking another situation, you're greatly mistaken, let me tell you right now.
Situation?
I don't want you in service again.
Oh, no. There's another way. But it involves a certain measure of risk.
Nothing crooked, Henry.
I was thinking of painting.
No, darling. You're much too old to go climbing up and down ladders. I'd never have a moment's peace.
Not houses. Pictures.
Come on to bed, love. You're getting tired.
Alice.
More coffee?
Not now, thank you. Last night I told you that I was thinking of painting again.
Now, dear.
No. Let me talk, please. There's something I've got to tell you. A certain explanation. Will you sit down? The truth of the matter is that my name isn't Henry Leake.
Oh, isn't it? But what does it matter? As long as you haven't committed a murder or anything.
My real name is Priam Farrell.
Farrell? Wasn't that your gentleman's name?
Well, that's what I want to explain. You see, it was my valet who sent you the photograph. His name was Henry Leake. He's dead now.
I don't understand.
Well, it's really quite simple. It was Leake who fell ill and died. But the doctor made a mistake, and I didn't correct him because, oh, well, there were all sorts of reasons. One, I didn't want to be Priam Farrell anymore. In fact, I was downright sick of being Priam Farrell. I tell you this so that you'll understand that when I say I can paint and make a little money, I'm not being altogether foolish.
Then it's this Henry Leake that's buried in Westminster Abbey instead of you.
That's the somewhat quaint fact.
And you've never said a word about this to anybody?
Not to anybody who'd listen.
Do you know what?
What?
You've been worrying too much.
Worrying? Of course I've been worrying. I've been happy in this house.
Henry, love, it was sweet of you to tell me all about it, and I understand the whole thing. But you know what I would do if I were you?
I am not a loony, if that's what you've got in your mind.
If I were you, I would never again mention a word of this to anybody. I'd just forget it.
But it's the truth.
And above all, you should try to stop worrying.
But blast it all, Alice. All right, I'll prove it to you.
Henry, love, I'm not questioning it. All I'm saying is that it doesn't matter.
No, I'm going to prove it to you. Come on. I'm going to settle this matter right now. I do not intend to go through life being regarded as foolish Phil, the village idiot.
But Henry...
It happens I have incontrovertible evidence of my true identity. If you'll come into the attic. Stand here.
Did you do that?
I did. How does it strike you?
It's beautiful. What is it?
Study it.
Why, that's Putney Bridge, isn't it?
It is.
On rather a peculiar day, I imagine. But it's very nice, Henry. Very nice indeed. Quite nice.
No nearer.
Well, if you don't want me to see it close.
But you're at just the right distance.
You know, it's a pity you didn't put an omnibus on the bridge.
There is an omnibus on the bridge.
Oh.
There.
It stopped, I suppose.
Yes, dead still.
But it's very nice, Henry. I suppose you learned from your... Isn't that the Elk public house down in the corner?
It is.
I thought I recognized it, and a very good likeness, too.
Would it surprise you to know that that canvas is worth, at the very least, £800?
Yes.
To say nothing of the rumpus in Bond Street, if it became known that Priam Farr was painting in a Putney attic instead of rotting in Westminster Abbey. What a row that'd be.
Henry, love, don't you realize that you can get real pictures of lakes and even mountains by real artists for £2 apiece at the frame makers?
£2? Dash it, Alice, I've got £1,500 for things not nearly as good as that.
Darling, I don't want you worrying like this. We'll get the money some way. Please don't worry.
Listen, Alice.
But no matter what happens, I'll always take care of you. No matter what.
Come on, get your hat and coat.
I'll never let them take you away.
Come on. I'm going to prove this thing to you if it's my last act.
Good day, sir. Good day, ma'am.
Good day. I have a painting here. I want you to tell me what you think of it.
Well, I could hardly claim to be an expert, sir.
Well, you're familiar with pictures, aren't you?
Yes, sir, but... Oh. Hmm. Mm-hmm. 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 Ah, yes. Might I ask where you got it?
No.
Well, it's very good. Is it a copy?
Is it?
Either a copy or a very good imitation.
Would you be good enough to put a price on it?
£2?
What?
5.
Oh.
10, sir?
You mean that you'll give £10 for it?
Yes.
That'll be all, thank you.
Oh, but Henry...
Come along, my love.
I know.
Just a minute, sir. 15, sir.
£15, Henry. Do you suppose he's crazy?
Mad as a mount. Is it necessary for you to consider everybody who is connected with the arts as crazy?
Lady Vale, sir.
How do you do, Lady Vale?
Morning, Oxford.
I'm pleased to see you looking so well.
Ah, rubbish. You have another fall, I believe.
It arrived only yesterday.
Oh. A beautiful example.
Observe the composition.
I'll take it.
I congratulate you, milady.
How much?
Would you say that £2,500 was unreasonable?
I would, but I'll pay it. That's it. You like it, Benson?
Yes, milady. That's one of the new motor omnibuses, you know.
Is it?
Yes, milady. My daughter, the one that married the tram conductor. She rode it the first trip last winter.
Did you really? The first trip, did you say?
Last New Year's Day, milady. My daughter rode it all the way to Putney.
Surely you must be mistaken, Benson.
Mistaken, milady?
This last New Year's Day?
January 1st, 1908.
This is Denry Machin, the card, a young man whose irrepressible gaiety of disposition and unfailing flair for courageous action on the right occasion won him astonishing success.
You pick things up easily, don't you?
Yes. You? For him, all things were possible. His progress mystified his friends, enraged his enemies, and surprised even himself with its swiftness. What woman could resist the magnet of such spectacular success? Even the Countess of Chell herself, who far surpassed his dreams of womanhood, fell victim to his charm. How could such wealth and elegance fail to attract the entrancing, unpredictable Ruth Earp?
Oh, but I'm sure you're the sort of man who could do anything if he wants to. Ashtray?
Then there was Nellie. Wistful, childlike, adorable Nellie.
But what about Ruth?
Oh, hang Ruth. She can take care of herself.
Denry didn't mean it, Ruth. He's very sorry. I will not submit to insult. No, of course not. Denry, your ring. Our engagement is at an end. Ruth.
If I were you, Mr. I'd go aloft. You get hard down here.
All we reporters can take care of ourselves. Help! Help!
These are the ATV studios at Elstree, where they built an outdoor set for their production of Clayhanger, adapted from the novel by Arnold Bennett.
Everybody, please. We're going to go for another take on this. Don't forget the first bit. Instruments down.
Okay, how are you fixed?
Stand by, please.
Okay, how are you fixed, David?
We're ready. Roll the tape.
Rolling tape, please.
Scene 43, slate 52, take 2. Hey.
Bennett wrote many stories about life in the potteries, but he called them the Five Towns, and this label remains. He thought five sounded better. He missed out Fenton, and it never forgave him.